Welcome back. Direct talks between Ukraine and Russia yesterday ended very abruptly. Very little progress on negotiations for a ceasefire deal. They did, though, agree to another prisoner swap. Some great news. Ukraine's President Zelensky saying on X, "We have managed to bring back more than 1,000 of our people." The warriors returning today defended Ukraine in various frontline directions. Many of them had been in captivity for over 3 years. It's important that the exchanges are ongoing and our people are coming home. Let's bring in General Jack Keane. Sir, what do you make of this? I mean, complete sort of collapse again of the ceasefire negotiations, but lives are being saved. That's undoubtedly a good thing, right?
Yeah, well, the negotiations are a bit of a facade from Russia, just as they have been directly involving President Trump's team. I mean, I think it's a good thing that Russians and Ukrainians are talking to each other. Umerov, the former defense minister, now the secretary of the National Security Defense Council, somebody who I know pretty well, led the Ukrainian delegation in there. They had 3 objectives. You know, the first one was an unconditional ceasefire. The Russians rejected that, immediately said, no, we're not going to do anything like that until we achieve our objectives. Is you have to move out of the 4 oblasts that Russia is partially occupying and have to abandon them completely. They would become a part of Russia. Their second objective is that Zelensky would have to leave power. The third is the military inside of the Ukrainian military would have to demilitarize, and they would have to reject also ever joining NATO. Those terms are certainly completely unacceptable to the Ukrainian thing. The second thing that Umerov proposed, Jillian, was that President Zelensky and President Putin meet at a future date prior to the end of August at Istanbul, where these meetings would take place inside Turkey, and also President Trump and President Erdogan would be invited. The Russians responded to that and said, no, we would only bring our president if we were going to sign a final arrangement. And then the third thing is they did make some progress on what you mentioned. 250 exchange of prisoners in the near term with a potential for going to closer to 1,200, and some possibility of the return of a small number of children. Russia acknowledges they have 300 children or so inside of Russia that are orphans, and if the Ukrainians can demonstrate they have parents, then they'll return them. Ukraine believes there's some 19,000 plus children that the Russians have kidnapped. And so making progress on that is something Ukraine is very interested in, as are the people, but hardly any progress being made here whatsoever.
General, we all know that Ukraine is on defense in this war. They are the victims of Putin's savage invasion and his attacks on civilians. That said, Zelensky is not without his own challenges at home. He is now facing widespread protests, anti-corruption protests. We have some video of that to share with folks at home. Here is Zelensky himself responding to widespread criticism he's getting amongst Ukrainians for legislation he is pushing. Take a listen.
I will propose a bill to the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine that will be the response. It will ensure the strength of the rule of law system, and there will be no Russian influence or interference in the activities of law enforcement. And very importantly, all of the norms for the independence of anti-corruption institutions will be in place.
It's pretty urgent he gets his own house of cards in order, would you say?
Yeah, you know, to use a sports metaphor here, Zelensky kind of committed an unforced error here. I mean, what happened here is there is 2 independent agencies that are not supervised by the government to deal with corruption. They're anti-corruption agencies, and then they identify the corruption and they go after the people and hold them accountable in a court of law. The parliament, the Rada, and Zelensky passed a law recently putting these 2 independent agencies under the control of their prosecutor general. That is equivalent to the United States Attorney General in this country. And that would give that person the power to dismiss cases, etc. The people, for the first time since the Russian invasion, are in the streets over this issue because they know that since the collapse of the Soviet Union and there was a semblance of democracy and capitalism in Ukraine going back to 1991, they've also been plagued by corruption. The people are aware of it, and they want this corruption stamped out. And they believe this was a move back to the past, an authoritarian step taken by Zelensky, who has never demonstrated anything like that before. What is he doing now? He's mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa, number one, and number two, coming back with new legislation to reverse that decision. And yes, the people have got his attention for sure. The president of the EU called him, and Zelensky wants to join the EU. And she said to him in so many words, this is the wrong step if you want to become a member of the EU, and recommend that you reverse this decision. And he's on the way to doing that.
Yeah, well, General, thanks for laying that out more succinctly than I could ever hope to. Wonderful to talk to you as always. Thanks for your time with us this morning.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.